Hey everyone, welcome back to Epicenter Garage. Today we've got a very busy day. The weather outside, it's raining outside a little bit, but that's okay. I kind of like days like today because on nice days when it's super nice outside, I don't want to really work on cars. I want to take cars out and drive. So today is like one of those perfect days that allows me to literally get stuff done. So we've got a lot of stuff today. So we finally got the 934 off the lift, and I'll go over this car in a little bit, but we're also doing, I got a really cool, at a Porsche event, I got a really cool poster, or not a poster, what am I trying to say here? A calendar, and then I started flipping through all the pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, these pictures are freaking awesome. So, and I have lots, well, I'm running out of empty space in my walls, but we have a lot more room on the other side of this garage door. So anyway, I am slowly turning that, basically cutting the posters or the calendar out and turning those into posters so I can mount on the wall, because the pictures are just awesome. And I'll get a chance to show you that today. So we got this off, and then we're going to take the 73 Carrera and get that on the lift and get oil changes on that and a few other little things. We'll see what else comes up. But first, oh man, finally got the 934 all sorted out. It took me a long time to get the suspension, everything sorted out. It wanted to go either left or right off the road. It didn't want to track very straight. I mean, cars with wide tires tend to tram line anyway, but this one was, man, it wanted to kill me on any kind of two-lane road. So finally got this off the lift. We got the oil change. We actually got new tires mounted. I can show you here, we've got the Michelin TB tires that you can see here. These tires, for a lot of you that know Porsches, I mean, the Michelin TBs are just an awesome tire. These are kind of more of a vintage tire, 15-inch. We've got the widest ones they make actually on the back. But anyway, we've got center knockoff 15-inch wheels. These were custom made for this car. Now this car, it's a 934 turbo, but it's not. This car started life as a 1987 911 Turbo that I bought, oh my gosh, probably, almost 15 years ago, and it was an absolute hunk of junk. And that was when you could buy 930 Turbos all day long for, I saw them all the way down to $18,000, and so I bought this car just crazy, crazy cheap. I was very, very fortunate, but it didn't run white. It was a terrible color. It had been repainted once or twice. It had different wheels on it, tan interior that was just, it was in bad, bad shape. So bought this car, took it all apart, sent it down to John James Racing down in Arizona with the thought and the plan to turn this into a 1976-77 934 Turbo. So when I had that idea, Jim at John James Racing was like, why the heck do you want to build a 934? Well, because growing up, I had a stack of Porsche books that I would usually, my mom and my dad knew that I loved cars, and so every Christmas or my birthday, whatever, they'd always get me a car book or a big thick Porsche book. And there was one picture in there that I wore that picture out. The book was creased on that picture, and it was a picture of an orange 934 Turbo, and I just, that picture's just embedded in my brain. I can see it right now. So I had to have that car one of these days, and so here it is for me. Now, original 934 Turbos they're probably $2 million, between $1 million, depending on the race history, $1 million to $2 million. So the thing about 934 Turbos is there's not a lot left because they were just old race cars. So what would happen is after the season was over, the rules would change. They would allow bigger engines, wider tires, bigger brakes, those kind of things. So teams would take their old 934s, cut the flares off, cut the fenders off, put bigger flares on. They would actually turn them into 935s, which are kind of the same cars, but not. You guys can Google the difference between, or pictures between 934s and 935s. There's a big difference. And then, of course, you got into the different K versions as well, which those were like way over the top, really crazy looking, kind of Batmobile-ish looking 911 turbos, but really cool, but enormous tires and wheels on those. So, but I wanted the look of the original looking 934s. So worked with Jim Hendricks down there, and at first, he was like, why do you want that car? But, you know how it is. You get certain things in your mind, and it's like, you got to have it a certain way. So And so we started work on this car, took the engine out, put it out to, I want to say it's 3.4 liters, obviously stock 911 turbos of this era, 3.3 liters. So this is bored out to 3.4 liters. And well, let me open it up as we're talking about it. We'll do a more in-depth review, I don't call it a review or demo of what this car is all about, but the interior is done just like pretty close to a 934. Obviously the gauges, I've got the original boost gauges in it, but it's, think of it as a more civilized 934. And granted, it's not a real 934, but I don't care. It's a 930 turbo that looks like a 934, and it drives great, it runs great. It has about the same amount of horsepower as the original cars, but it's a lot more streetable. Now this car has a 3.4 liter, so stock these were 3.3 liter. Obviously this is a 1987 911 turbo. So this one's been punched out just a little bit, so 3.4 liter. It still does have AC compressor, so it does actually still have air conditioning in it, which is awesome. And we did build a special intercooler in order, you can kind of see here, it does kind of bend out to the size in order to fit under this deck lid. We did want to have as much cooling as possible for, obviously, the bigger the intercooler, the better in most instances. So we packed the largest intercooler we could design in the back of this thing. And of course, then we have obviously two pipes. For those of you who don't know about 911 turbos, you obviously have the main exhaust, and then you have the wastegate exhaust. And so the really neat thing about this car is it will shoot flames out the back, which is awesome at night. Really, really neat. So anyway, and of course, white exhaust pipes. I love, you'll notice in various cars, I love white exhaust systems. So, and this one, the plate is off because this is the year that I get to be able to run vintage or antique tags on this car. So unfortunately in Kansas, when we move cars from regular tags to antique, we have to take the tag and we have to turn the tag in, which really, really stinks. So this car produces probably close to, we haven't put it on a dyno yet. I'm gonna guess right around 485 horsepower, maybe 500. Produces a lot of torque. Second gear, oh my gosh, it gets through second gear so fast. You gotta be, by the time you're in second gear, you just get in second gear, you gotta be starting to think about third gear. The front end just lifts up, but oh, if it wasn't raining outside, we would take this thing out, but that will be a future episode. We'll take this out and show you exactly what this car can do. But, oh, I did have one thing I wanna get you guys' opinion on. So, since I'm planning on taking this car, now that it's all sorted and drives, it can go straight down a road, I picked up some lights. And I'm thinking about putting these rally lights on. They have these cool CB caps. Let me slap this on. So hopefully I don't drop this thing. Put this on. There we go. Oh, these, I would see these in books and in rally cars and all that kind of stuff, and just love these things. And I'm debating on what these would look like on this car. I wish they would stay on here without falling off, but they're gonna slide off. But putting them in the proper location, I need to look at a lot of different pictures online to see the proper location, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to put them on this car or not. Now, I am going to be taking this car on quite a few different rallies. The first one I'm going to be going on is going to be taking it over to Arkansas on a camping and fishing trip with my son, and so we're going to end up taking this car. So I'd love to be able to put some better lights on the front, or more lights, I should say. So anyway, let me know what you guys think, if I should mount these on. Granted, I'll have to drill holes in the front hood, and that's okay. I mean, I can always put little rubber grommets or whatnot to fill them in, but I don't know. I think it'd look way cool. And I actually have a little slot car upstairs. It's a 934. Actually, it's a just a 930, and has these lights on it. It looks killer. I love it. So we can actually pull the green 73 around and get the oil changed on that, because this weekend it's supposed to be crazy nice outside. Now, I haven't driven the 73. Man, I haven't really. I've taken it out probably about a month, maybe 2 months ago. Now, you'll notice that I say Porsche. I know the proper way to say Porsche is actually to say Porsche, but I don't know. Ever since I was a little kid, I always grew up. My dad always said Porsche. My friends always said Porsche. So I know the proper way to say Porsche is to actually say Porsche, and so, but I don't, and I apologize, but that's just the way I am. So this car started out, it's a real 73. It's not a real 73 Carrera. It would be awesome if it was, but it's not. So this car, my cousin's husband bought this car, oh my gosh, 20 plus, maybe, oh my gosh, probably 25 years ago. It started out as a 1973 911T, but it had a Sportmatic gearbox. It's a pretty cool transmission. Nobody really liked them that much. It's a really interesting transmission. But it came with a Sportmatic, which I immediately pulled out to put a 915 gearbox in. And so, but this car was in rough shape. Rusty. It did run. It had a 2.4 liter engine in it. It was not good. And it was just rusty. The whole front end was rusted out. It needed a lot of patchwork. So we gutted the entire car. I knew I wanted to do it Viper green and really kind of go through the car. Now I did. My plans for this car was to vintage race it. And as I've gotten older, and I want to say wiser, but that's probably not true, I've slowly started to learn because I love Porsche race cars. I absolutely love them. And I love race cars in general, anything with an engine on it for that matter. But when I started building Porsches and doing different things like that, I wanted to build race cars that I could drive on the street. And so that's basically what I wanted to start doing. And so I quickly learned that really what I want to do, I wanted to build street cars that I could race. So there's a big difference there. So this is kind of that last generation of cars that I have built along with Jim Hendricks, John James Racing, where this is a race car that I can drive on the street. Now, not all my race cars I can drive on the street. So I don't go full bore on a race motor. So this one can run race gas, but I can also run 91, 93 octane pump fuel in it. Because I want to enjoy it, because I don't, with work and everything, I don't get a chance to vintage race nearly as much as I would like to. And so, I want to enjoy these cars, and I want to enjoy them on the street as much as I possibly can. And running a full-on race engine is just not the way to do it. And even the suspension, setting the suspension up so it's more streetable, that's what I've quickly learned the best thing to do. So, and as I started vintage racing and doing more and more racing is really hard on cars, really hard. And I'm not that particular where, none of my cars are perfect. They've got road rash and they've got bugs on them, and I never have time to wash the cars, anything like that, which is fine. But after I built this car, it turned out so nice, I didn't want to vintage race it. I didn't really want to race it. And the fact that a couple of my buddies and friends that vintage race, this car would be running Group 8, depending on what vintage series that, I decide to run in. This is probably going to be running Group 8, where a lot of my friends and some of my buddies, they race as well. And so they run in Group 10, which the 74 RSR runs in Group 10. And of course, it's much more fun being on the track with your friends than being out there with people you don't know or cars that are, much faster than me. Because I'm not, like I said, I like to think of myself as being an okay driver, and I'm really not even okay. I'm probably pretty terrible, but I have a good time, and I guess that's all that matters. So at least that's what I tell myself. But this car, I've never vintage raced it. I probably never will. I enjoy driving on the street. It has a 3.2 liter engine in it. I can show you the engine here. It's a 3.2 liter. It's got 46 PMOs on it. That's the carburetors on it. It's a little bit better carburetor than the original Weber's. At least easier to tune and easier to work on, and in my mind, simpler. Twin plug, so it's got two plugs or two spark plugs for every cylinder, so 12 spark plugs and 12 spark plug wires. A little more reliability there, and obviously more horsepower. But this engine, it's not a full-blown race engine. I'll run 110 octane through it, but primarily I use it on the street, run 91, 93 octane in it. It produces probably 270 horsepower, maybe 280, right around that range. I've yet to ever dyno it, but with all the specs and everything that I've done, pistons, all that type of stuff, that's probably the acceptable range of horsepower. But it sounds absolutely fantastic. So this one, I have a lot of, at least Porsches that run on the street. This one runs no mufflers. It runs the old school cookie cutters. They call them cookie cutters out the back. So megaphones, for the layperson, I guess you'd say. They're shaped like a megaphone. Come right out the back. And it does, 6,000 to 7,500 RPM. No, oh man, it would be hard pressed to find another car that sounds this good. It just absolutely wails, and it just puts a smile on my face. It's too loud for the street, but that's the beautiful thing about living in Kansas. We don't, not yet anyway, have any noise regulations. So that day, if they do that, oh man, that will be the end of me as soon as they start putting noise regulations where I live. So, but anyway, don't really get on it until kind of out on some back roads outside of town, and then just open it up, and oh, it is absolutely glorious. And you guys will get a chance to hear this thing. So I apologize. This episode, we're not firing anything up today. It's the weather outside's kind of poopy, but you guys keep watching. We're going to take this out. It's going to be epic. But we're going to get this up on the lift and get the oil changed. But I want to show you what I'm doing upstairs because, you know, granted, working on cars, I love working on cars, but I also love artwork and I love doing things to the building. I've got so many open spots that, if you guys keep watching this channel, I mean, we're going to be building all kinds of cool signs. Because I'm not necessarily an artist, but I love to be able to fill the space up with just, I've been in so many neat shops all over the place, and you walk in and it's just like, you know, it's just an overload of your senses and cool things to see. So that's what I'm trying to turn this shop into. This shop is nowhere near complete where I want it to be. It's a work in progress, but we're getting there. And so hopefully every episode, I'm going to be showing you a little new something, whether it's putting a cool picture in a poster frame and putting it up on the wall, or building a sign. I just finished one over there that I'll show you guys later on. And I've got plans for a really cool project that's going to be mounted up on the side up there. But anyway, come on upstairs and let me show you what I'm doing up there. All right. Now up here, it's kind of a mess, and I apologize, but let me move some model cars out of the way, or slot cars. And I'm using my pool table as a temporary workspace, so. And this pool table, I'll tell you a little bit about this pool table. So I bought this pool table for $100, and it was in bad shape. So finally got it all the way up here and refinished the table, and then I wanted to kind of I wanted to make it look like a Porsche table or a Porsche table. And so what I did is I got into CAD and laser cut out these letters here. And so they're just acrylic, double-sided taped onto the side. So I just thought it kind of added a little bit of, you know, I don't want to say flair, but made it look cooler than just a regular pool table. So, and a funny story is so I put all the letters on here, and my wife was across the street at our house, and so I took a picture and said, "Hey, Kristen, I got all the letters on." Sent her, you know, like I said, sent her a picture, and she immediately texted back, like, "Brian, you misspelled it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I'd sent the exact same picture to 5 of my friends, and they're all like, "Oh man, it looks great, good job, you know, finally glad you got that thing done." And none of them noticed that I put the letters on wrong. I had swapped around the S and the C. And of course my wife, you know, the literary person that she is, the grammar, you know, she was like, jumped on it right away. And I was like, "No, I didn't, there's no way." And I looked at the picture, and sure enough. So there you go. My friends don't know how to spell, nor do I. Of course, my wife does, and so obviously it was luckily easy to untape the letters, but quick story. So I'm sorry, I get distracted, but so on to this. So there was a Porsche event, I should say, I guess. I need to get better at that. Then they gave out these really cool calendars, and as I started flipping through, I was like, man, these pictures are too good, you know. I've got so many car calendars and stuff, and you can see my magazine stash over here, and so that's a whole nother issue that I get into, is cutting pictures out. But these pictures are just absolutely fantastic, and I was like, man, these need to go up on a wall. So what I've started to do is I bought 12 frames, kind of cheapo frames, line it out over here, and so I've been drawing it out, and of course, then cutting the pictures out. Ooh, that's gonna be a great, oh, check that one out. That's gonna be awesome. So anyway, so over here you can see I've got a few of them done, but look at these. Those are gonna be way cool. I'm trying to decide whether or not I need to put them, obviously that's a 9 and a 7 and so on, whether or not I need to put them in some kind of order or something like that. So let me know in the comments down below how I should put them, or just randomly throughout the building, I don't know. But just whoever took these pictures or whoever put that poster together, I call it a poster, they're posters now, but should say calendar, you did a fantastic job. Hats off to you. So they will be proudly displayed. Here's another one that's really good. That might be one of my favorites with the RSR in the background in the garage. So like I said, they're gonna be proudly displayed throughout the building. So anyway, that's one little project. We've got all kinds of projects we're gonna be doing up here, probably on my pool table. I've got a really big project that's gonna be coming up pretty soon that I'm gonna bring you guys along. It's taken a little bit of planning to get it all together, but it's gonna be awesome, awesome, awesome. A lot of slot cars all over the floor up here. So, and we're building a new product. I'm gonna bring you guys along for that ride. We're gonna be building a new product for the slot car, I don't wanna say industry or market, that's not out there at all. So you can see how long this track is. It's probably, I don't know, it's probably about 50 feet long. And so you can see all the slot cars lined up along the side. So we run them, obviously we stayed up here till probably 4 in the morning a couple days ago, racing, seeing which slot car is the fastest. And so I came up with an idea for a new product. And so I'm gonna bring you guys along with that on that journey here pretty soon, from the idea phase to prototyping to development to actually producing it in mass production. So we'll see. That's gonna be my first product in the slot car realm. So I cannot wait to share that with you guys and actually start testing it up here pretty soon. So, and if I do remember, I think down there, it's a slotted car made by Slotted, and it was a Cortina, and it was crazy fast. So, but we're gonna show a lot of slot car action later on in future episodes. So make sure you stay on the channel. Make sure you stay on the channel. So I'll bring you guys up to speed on my I didn't mean it to be a long-term project, but it has turned into that for various reasons, and I won't get in too deep in that, but it comes down to well, you guys will understand. Basically, this car has 40,000 miles on it. It's a 1986 911 Turbo, as you can tell. And so I've been enjoying this car, driving this car for quite some time, and then it wasn't running quite right. And so I thought, you know what, the engine's never been out of this car. Now's the time to probably pull the engine out and kind of go through it, because I kind of like, I like making sure a car's correct and going through the whole thing. So I thought, you know what, at that time the clutch probably needs to be changed, things like that, even though it was kind of starting to slip a little bit. So decided to pull the engine out, which I did. And then it's one of those things, hopefully you guys will understand, you pull the engine out and you're like, oh wait, well it also needs this, and why it's out, I might as well do this, and you know what, oh I didn't know it probably needed this and that, and CV boots and blah, blah, blah. So that list started, it was this long and it slowly turned into this long. And with COVID and all that kind of stuff, parts were on back order, they couldn't get parts, so I was waiting, and I was like, I'm not gonna start on it till I get all the parts in that I need, which is, now that I think about it, it's kind of a mistake because I'd be a lot further along than I am now. But the parts are in. I can gladly say, I can check off the last part. But let me tell you a little bit about this car. Like I said, 40,000 miles. I bought this car, oh man, probably 20 years ago, long time ago. Bought it down in Houston, drove it back home. I actually went down there I had a dental appointment down there, and I was supposed to be flying back. My wife called me, and I totally forgot to call her and tell her what I was doing. And she's like, hey, you at the airport? I'm like, no, I'm almost to Dallas. She's like, what? I'm like, well, I bought a car. She's like, all right. So that was a kind of a long, difficult conversation, but she got over it. That was a long time ago. So anyway, bought this car when I was down in Houston, drove it all the way back. And so a low mileage car, been driving it for quite some time. I can't remember how many miles I had on it when I bought it, but it wasn't very many. And that was back in the day, like I talked to you about the 934. That's when these things were cheap. You could buy them all day long for 20 to 30 grand. Ugh, I miss those days. Those days are long gone. So 3.3 liter turbo. It looks pretty dirty. Obviously, this engine had never been pulled out of the car. So 4-speed gearbox. So a lot of plans for this car. All the hoses, anything that needs to be replaced, any maintenance item on this engine I am doing, or on the car in general. So I finally have everything from all your heating hoses to gaskets to I'm even to the point where, you know, it's got, obviously this is a stock starter, and I am putting on a high torque starter. With as many 911s as I've had, I've always had the stock ones, you know, you got to crawl under the car. If it won't start, you hit it with a hammer, you know, those kind of things. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and put a high torque starter on it. So even little upgrades, I want to keep it all completely stock, even though it does have B&B exhaust on it. But, you know, and I know as I dig into it and start pulling it apart, it's pretty much all apart to where I need to get it to. So it's going to be, you know, I don't want it to be a long-term project with work and everything and maintaining a lot of other cars that you guys are going to see here in the next couple episodes. This has turned into a long-term project, but every so many episodes, you guys are going to see a lot of progress on this. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to pull the transmission off away from the engine. I do have the new clutch, and so that is going to be the next job. And once I pull the transmission out, I will take it out, clean it, go through it, replace everything from all the seals in it, all that type of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to getting back on this, and I'm just so excited to have all the parts in stock. So now all I got to do is try to make time to get this project done. But you guys, hopefully you guys will watch the channel, be along for the ride, and keep the pressure on me to get this thing done, because I really need to get it done, and I really miss driving this car. And we need to race this car against some other cars out here. That's a whole other thing we're going to do, and we'll talk about that later. But for now, really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you again real soon.